Let's start off with this Nvidia news. Bit of a surprise, this new Rubin platform. What was your take on it, and how do you see it impacting the chip market and the AI trade?
I think that we're going to continue to see innovation from Nvidia. That's not what keeps me up at night about this company. My question mark is, are they going to be able to keep that margin that they've had, right? They've had these massive, massive margins. And the reality is you see news like coming out of AMD saying, hey, we're going to build, something pretty similar that's directly competitive and coming out in the not too far future. So yes, Nvidia continues to innovate, and that is great. They are very, very good at that. The problem is their competitors are catching up fast.
All right, so you think their competitors are catching up fast. I don't know if you were watching, but we had a guest on last week that said Nvidia has like an impenetrable moat. She also gave us a forecast of a $10 trillion market cap by 2030, but that was also dependent on that moat. But you think this new chip from AMD's a real rival?
I had a good laugh over that clip. It was certainly dinner table fodder. The reality is that yes, I mean, we're seeing this both on the Apple side and Meta and Alphabet, some of these companies that are making these chips in-house and are designing them in-house, and they certainly have the know-how to do so, and they have the supply chain. And then you're also seeing it with the AMDs of the world who are designing these chips. And so I just think it's going to be really, really tough for Nvidia to keep that moat, keep that 1,000% margin. And, he talked about CEO math. A lot of CEOs are going to look at the math of that margin and say, maybe I'm going to go somewhere cheaper.
So far, Nvidia has been the dominating force in the AI chips market, leaving competitors like AMD and Intel in its wake. However, things could change for the better for AMD, according to an analyst at Melius Research, but he thinks that the chances are less good for Intel. Melius analyst Ben Reitzes showcased his bull case for AMD in a recent research note, ending it with a buy rating on the stock and a $210 price target, which implies an upside of around 25% from where AMD stock is trading as of the time of this video. So let's get into why this analyst remains bullish on AMD despite how the company seems to struggle against Nvidia, and why he's not super excited about what's next for Intel. But first, if you want to keep up with AMD's latest updates and keep up with the stock market's latest news, you can follow our Twitter account. We post multiple times daily about the biggest changes and catalysts in the market, so click the follow button if you don't want to miss the newest market updates. Now, back to today's video.
You are steadfastly bullish on the semi names, the leadership, Nvidia, but others as well. Why?
Well, believe it or not, Kelly, this is a pocket of the market I've been bullish on for a number of years. And part of that was the technical picture was just so strong. But the technicals remain extremely strong. In fact, they've improved greatly. And now you have very strong earnings. And obviously, we all know about Nvidia now and the power of their earnings. And so when I take the fundamentals of the earnings power, combine that with the picture of the technicals, it suggests that the semiconductors will continue to be leaders within the tech sector and can continue to go significantly higher. Doesn't mean we don't get periods of a pullback from time to time, but I think people are going to be quite surprised how much higher this segment of the market can go up.
In his new research note, Melius analyst Ben Reitzes said he thinks that AMD could be one of the beneficiaries of a catch-up trade coming out of the second quarter. He thinks that investors should be giving AMD more credit than they are currently, noting that there wasn't much love for AMD after Lisa Su's Computex keynote, perhaps because Nvidia rented out a 7,000-person venue the night before and stole her thunder. He then adds that investors should keep in mind that AMD doesn't need to be Nvidia, as it's only 9% of Nvidia's market cap. Reitzes also notes that while it's true that the smaller company has underperformed Nvidia by 131 points year to date, it has EPS power that could top $8 within a few years. Reitzes pointed to a couple of factors which should benefit AMD, including that the world's most valuable company, Microsoft, had endorsed the benefits of its AI chips on a total cost of ownership basis, which is the cost when taking into account indirect factors such as power and cooling demands, an area that Nvidia is known for bragging about. He also thinks that other potential positives for AMD include more orders from the tech giant Meta becoming evident in the second half of 2024, as Mark Zuckerberg's company actually endorsed the benefits of total cost of ownership for AMD's MI300X AI accelerator, which went unnoticed by many. Reitzes also likes the specifications for AMD's Strix Point AI PC processors, which he called impressive, and could be driving upside as soon as Q3 of this year. Plus, he got an upbeat sense from management in recent meetings he had with them. It's worth noting that the analyst also has a buy rating on Nvidia stock, and his last price target for it was $1,250. However, it's a different story when it comes to Intel, according to the analyst. But why does he think so? Let's find out. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Investocracy. Reitzes thinks that Intel's plan to make a huge investment in chip manufacturing capacity muddies the waters for the stock. He wrote that not only is the Intel foundry story too complicated for the average investor, but the fact that you could just buy Nvidia and AMD, companies with AI narratives and very little capital intensity, just adds to the pain. Finally, he adds that Intel now primarily needs to demonstrate that its gross margins have bottomed and that it can benefit from an uptick in the PCs and servers markets. Basically, he's saying that Intel should leave the AI chip success to Nvidia and AMD. With all of this in mind, should investors rush to buy AMD stock and Nvidia stock? Let's find out. But first, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
From your perspective, what is the correct framework that investors should be utilizing to suss out AI CapEx and what is, really going to lead to growth on the R&D side versus just something buzzy to say on an earnings call?
Yeah, so firstly, Shauna, thank you so much for having me. I would say first and foremost, we need to reflect on the fact that AI is transformational. It is changing how we operate, and it is rapidly changing the dynamics in some of the technology hardware businesses that we assess and value as investors. Now, what I would say is just thinking through the timing and the sequencing of that, we're at a point now where your hyperscalers are investing every incremental dollar they can find in staying ahead of the pack as much as they possibly can on the LLM development side. And that means that if you're a semiconductor business that's aligned to server and hyperscaler capacity extension, you're in a very sweet spot at this point in time. Now, I think as we go forwards, we should expect competition. We should see some change in dynamic in that industry as we see more companies come to market with capabilities in that space, and or as we see the shift from the best-in-class leading edge nano capacity semiconductors towards something a little bit more cost effective in the ASIC space, actually changing that a little bit. But right now, we're still very bullish on the space. We have to be thoughtful around valuations, but we see a lot of opportunity.
In my opinion, both AMD stock and Nvidia stock are great buys thanks to their massive AI potential, but let's look at them separately and start with AMD. Shares of the company have risen by more than 4,000% since 2014, with the last decade likely the most crucial period in its 55-year history. This is because CEO Lisa Su took the helm 10 years ago and pulled the company back from the brink of bankruptcy. Then she led it to an impressive recovery. During that period, AMD's annual revenue rose by 312%, while operating income climbed by 169%. Much of its growth is owed to the launch of its line of Ryzen CPUs in 2017. And those powerful chips allowed AMD to consistently take market share from Intel. To put that into perspective, you should know that AMD's CPU market share rose from 18% in the first quarter of 2017 to about 33% today. Meanwhile, Intel's fell from 82% to 64%. Additionally, AMD's CPU success helped the company gain the necessary funds to expand into other sectors, including the AI sector. Over the last year, the company has released new AI GPUs to profit from soaring demand for AI chips. Additionally, AMD is gradually expanding into the AI-capable PC market. According to a forecast from Analyst, AI-capable PCs will represent about 18% of all PC shipments this year, and that share is projected to more than double to 40% in 2025. With solid positions in multiple areas of tech, AMD is on a promising growth trajectory, and the vast potential of AI and other industries will likely keep its stock rising for years, making AMD an attractive long-term investment to buy right now.
Luke, when it comes to, you were recently had the opportunity joining a small group of investors invited for the day to spend some time with Microsoft's senior management team. I'm curious what your takeaway from those conversations are, just in terms of where we are in this AI cycle and how much opportunity it sounds like still lies ahead.
Yeah, and actually just interestingly, our leading investment team on the global and US side have just spent the week on the West Coast meeting with roughly 20 companies, both public, private, and actually also on the VC side. So I think we've got some real-time intel into what's happening in that space. And I think the very short answer is we're still at the very early stages of this transformation. Especially in the public market context, we're still at the cutting edge of how can you utilize LLM and big data analytical tools in that AI framework, and then how can you apply that into real world solutions. And so I think at the moment, we're seeing a clear cycle of accelerated earnings in the enabling technologies. We're not seeing the evidence of that passing through into the software businesses in the way that we would expect to over the medium to long term. And so as we see the long-term adoption of AI techniques within those productivity-enhancing solutions, I think that's a further bull case for some of those software businesses, especially the bigger names that we know are at the front edge of that development.
Nvidia, on the other hand, is seen by many as a no-brainer AI stock to buy. Shares of the GPU company have skyrocketed over 200% over the past year and have delivered a jaw-dropping gain of more than 24x over the last 10 years. Not only that, but Nvidia is the fastest rising member of the Magnificent Seven. Despite the massive growth it has seen, what Nvidia has done in the past isn't as important as what it could do in the future. The company's amazing growth story isn't going to end anytime soon, as many tech companies continue to buy Nvidia's AI chips as fast as they can get their hands on them. The company plans to launch its new Blackwell GPU platform later this year, which will be the world's most powerful AI architecture ever. Unsurprisingly, the demand for Blackwell already outstrips the anticipated supply, according to CEO Jensen Huang. While Nvidia stock might seem expensive to some investors, many have said that about the stock since the very beginnings of the AI boom, and it kept skyrocketing and proving them wrong. So Nvidia is likely poised to continue delivering stunningly strong growth, and investors who want to capitalize on that shouldn't waste another minute and go ahead and buy more Nvidia shares. But what do you think about AMD stock and Nvidia stock? And what are your expectations for the company's futures? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. If you would like to know more about the latest updates about companies like AMD and Nvidia, then go ahead and click on the next video on your screen.